Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. We're coming to you live from Global Alts in Miami by iConnections. Joining me for this segment, we have Ashley Moore. He's Managing Director at Hilbert Capital. We're here to discuss the evolving landscape in global alternatives and the role that digital assets are increasingly playing. Ashley, it is great to have you with us. Welcome to TradeTalks.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
You got it. And let's talk about the current environment and your specific area of focus within the alt space. How are you seeing it evolving to where we are today?
So, I mean, it's evolving quickly. And anyone that's sort of followed sort of blockchain development and some of the sort of the fields there, we'll see 2022 was clearly a wake-up moment for the industry with FTX. A lot of the asset management business was looking for sort of off-exchange settlement. They weren't willing to put their tokens on exchanges anymore, so we had that there. 2023 was a bit of a slow year, but 24, obviously with Trump election, sort of picked things up there. There's a lot of talk in the stablecoin market where you know people like BlackRock are tokenizing sort of money market funds. You're able to get a 4% plus yield there, and it's how some of these sort of money managers are sort of incorporating that into their strategies. You've also got sort of staking business as well, and restaking and liquid staking. So, you know, sort of 2024, I think, was the year of sort of really optimizing assets. Sitting there on lazy Bitcoin, which is what a lot of people did, and watch the market go up, wasn't good enough. You'd never do it in dollars. Why would you do it with your tokens? So.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you bring that up with the past 12 to 18 months and how the conversations have really matured around the digital asset space. So it's going from this ethos of the engineering and the designing and the real technical part of it to DeFi, TradFi integration and user experience, and of course becoming part of the national conversation in the US anyway. Yep. In 2024. The conversations just sound very different than they would have perhaps in 2023 and early 2024. So what are some of the key trends that you think are driving this?
I mean, certainly the regulatory landscape seems to be sort of changing here. Trump's obviously a positive for that. We'll see how that plays out, but he's obviously got some great ambitions there. And it's obviously sort of woken people up to what it is. I think there's a pretty good sort of adoption rate in the US already. But battling against sort of the SEC and the CFTC and some of their sort of slow adoption was sort of holding things back a bit. But it seems like we're getting some positive moves in that regard.
Yeah, I would agree with you there too. It's not necessarily the product, but establishing, okay, what is this? How do we operate within the confines of a regulatory framework, I think would really be the next catalyst for scale anyway. It's interesting, do you see the digital asset space decoupling from the macro landscape? Is it finding its own way, or more broadly speaking, how is the macro landscape impacting?
I think the macro landscape is extremely important. We've got a Fed meeting today. I think the results probably in about an hour's time. It's probably going to come out neutral on this one, but President Trump has already turned around and said he wants Jay Powell to lower interest rates. Bitcoin at the end of the day is a risk asset. If markets come off, Bitcoin comes off sort of, generally with that, or sort of amplifies that move. A low interest rate environment, if this happens, is probably going to be good for the sort of, the first quarter of this year, and we'll see where we go from there.
It feels like we have to get some of the execution done, though, on some of these policy ideas. What about technological advancements? Is that transforming, not even just digital assets, but the alt space in general?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, within sort of blockchain itself, I'd sort of mentioned staking and liquid staking. A lot of the real-world assets and the tokenization of those now is definitely changing that landscape. We have a number of funds. We're incorporating AI into that, which is clearly, obviously, the big sort of theme at the moment. So a lot of our indicators are sort of AI-driven. A lot of our models are sort of, learning language, and I think that's clearly going to be sort of a theme for this year as well.
So when you think about your outlook for 2025 and beyond, it almost feels like what's happening in digital assets and emerging technologies such as AI, they run parallel with each other. You can kind of see them evolving and maturing at the same rate, if you will.
Yeah, I was at a talk yesterday, and one of the sort of themes that came up. So, AI can be sort of very centralized, and blockchain by its nature is decentralized. They're almost sort of the perfect sort of coupled together. So you'll start to see it. There were a few tokens last year that were really sort of sort of embraces sort of blockchain technology, I think that'll sort of continue over the next sort of year. 2025, 26.
All right, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me from Global Alts. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.